My background is more journalism than creative writing. So I was a high school editor of the paper and editor of the paper in college. And then my first job was at a small weekly newspaper in Wyoming. And it was at that time when I started thinking about maybe writing a novel someday. In addition to being a newspaper reporter and editor, I worked for a ranch, working ranch for a while. I was a fishing guide, partially, an exploration surveyor. So I did a lot of things to get there. And then for 24 years, my wife and I owned a international tourism marketing company. So I traveled a lot around the Mountain West with foreign journalists. And I didn't really realize at the time that almost everything I was doing was training me and giving me the background to then later write about all these areas in these books. In this one, it all takes place in the dead of winter and during a series of blizzards, so the weather is not too inviting. You won't want to go to Wyoming after you read this book. Joe Pickett is asked by the new governor to take on an assignment outside of his game warden duties, and that is to look into the disappearance of a female British PR executive who left a very exclusive dude ranch and never returned to England. And it's become kind of an international incident, the missing blonde woman in Wyoming. And Joe, as a game warden, is asked to go into the little town of Saratoga, Wyoming, and infiltrate himself into the community and see if he can figure out what happened. All of my books are about issues and real controversies and real things. And in this case, the issues that are explored in this book are the wind energy development, issues with falconers and falconry, and also the international tourism business, because British women like to go to dude ranches to meet young cowboys. That's the dirty little secret. So all of these things all come together in this book and are explored in the dead of winter by the game warden Joe Pickett. In Wyoming, in real life, there's a total of 50 of them. And part of their job is that they have these districts that are huge, 5,000 square miles. I mean, it's a huge state. It's the size of France, and there's only 600,000 people in it. But the terrain is really diverse, from mountains to deserts. They're very heavily armed, but part of the thing is almost everybody they encounter is armed. So even like in the most dangerous parts of the U.S., a cop is not always going to meet somebody who's armed. So they've got to deal with things in a different way. They can rarely have backup in time if they need it, but they're also involved in all the resource management, deer, antelope, elk, and fishing. And so they've got a lot, they wear a lot of different hats and have a lot of different duties. And when I first started writing about issues, I realized that game warden was the best doorway into those, because he would be out and about and in the middle of those things. I think in a lot of cases, what I see is that libraries are turning more into community centers in a lot of ways than simply places to check out books or materials. I really welcome that. I think it's great because they will, of course, be exposed to books if they show up, but I like the fact that so many libraries are starting to reach out and host things like this and other events. I think it's smart. Like I mentioned, I was a normal kid, normal boy, doing lots of sports and outdoor stuff. But I used to always ride my bike to the library in Casper, Wyoming, where I grew up. And the librarians there would kind of take me aside and harbor me. They'd find every book I'd ever heard of. When I was at that age, I think the first series I ever read was Encyclopedia Brown. They were able to locate every one of them around the state. And then they would recommend tougher books and more challenging books. So I always felt like I got my education in the library, not in school. And so I still enjoy doing library events and encouraging people to use libraries.